Assalamualaikum and good day to everyone. Bertemu kita kembali dalam revision and discussion for the answer scheme. And today we have a new module which is the mighty chondria. A big thanks to all our biology lecturer from Unit Biology College Matriculasi Selangor bergabung tenaga untuk menghasilkan satu soalan berbentuk HOTS. Okay, dan dalam modul ini kita dah compilekan semua chapter dan kita akan membuat perbincangan secara online untuk setiap chapter ini. So today, for the first chapter, which is ecology, okay, we are going to do the simple revision and discussion for the answer scheme. Okay, so let's restart. Alright, so for the chapter 2, okay, so the first question is about the zonation refer to the patterns that are observed in the community over a distance. Okay, so based on the distinct fauna and flora which is found along the area. Okay, so if you look at here, the first task here, okay, they are just giving you an idea. Okay, the zonation in the ecosystem we are discussed based on what? Okay, so for here they give about the distance, okay, and what are the effect to our biotic component here. Okay, this result in zonation since every species adapted to surviving specific environmental conditions that are not found everywhere. A typical lake, okay, so now they are focusing on lake, all right, has a three distinct zone which is known as the limnatic, littoral, and the benthic zone. Okay, so they just introduced to you what is the zone in our lake ecosystem. Okay, this is the question actually. Okay, so the real question is here. Okay, so if you look at here, this one is our question. All right, so what will happen to the littoral zone? Okay, so littoral zone, okay, did not get enough sunlight due to the muddy water. Okay, so now you recall back. Okay, so as you know, littoral zone. Okay, so this one is come in which area? So you have to imagine before you start answer the question. Okay, so let's imagine. All right. So if you look at the lake zonation, okay, this is the second one. We classified according to the distance, and the number one we are classified according to the light penetration. Okay, all right. So I don't know why my pen is like this. Okay, so you can read light penetration. Okay, so this one is the littoral zone. Okay, so which is the near to the shore. Okay, and this is the characteristic. Okay, shallow, well lit water close to the shore. Okay, and this is all the aquatic plant and animal that can survive here. Okay, so if you look at this side, okay, they have a photic zone and aphotic zone. So this one is represent the first characteristic, which is the light penetration. And this one is the benthic zone, or we call as a lake floor. Okay, yang paling dasar tu, right? Okay, so if you look at here, okay, so the penetration of sunlight is all very good. Okay, so it's like a maximum penetration of sunlight. So that's why we can get the aquatic plant, okay, the floating plant. Okay, why? Because they're able to produce the oxygen, so the animal can depend on the oxygen and also from the primary producer. Okay, so we are focusing on littoral zone. Okay, now let's go back to the question. Okay, but the question is not asking about the littoral zone specifically, but they are giving you the situation. Did not get enough sunlight due to the muddy water. Okay, means air keruh. Alright, so now as we discussed just now, the littoral zone, they should get the maximum light penetration. So now, no. Jadi, whatever the correct fact, you just terbalikkan sahaja. So what will be the first thing? Okay, the first point will be sunlight is insufficient. I just mentioned like that, is it not? Because it's understood here, because it's the muddy water. Okay, so when the sunlight is insufficient, so what will be the second effect point? Okay, aquatic plant cannot undergo photosynthesis. Okay, You can also write as less a plant can survive because no light penetration, so they cannot carry out the photosynthesis. So you just straight to the point, okay? Because no photosynthesis. If there is an aquatic plant cannot survive, so what happened? Okay, so they will affect our zooplankton, such as the insects, crustaceans, frog, or fish cannot survive. Okay, so if a zooplankton normally is like an insect lah, okay, or the other animals such as crustaceans, frog. Okay, why they cannot survive? Because their primary producers cannot survive here. So it will be related to them also. Okay, so the last point, they will reduce the diversity. Because as you know, our littoral zone is the best in diversity. Okay, because they get the maximum sunlight, they're near to the shore, so all the aquatic plant can survive better with the rooted plant, everything. So all the animals also can depend on the rooted plant because they can provide the food and they can provide the oxygen. But due to this problem, okay, so we have this point. Okay, so it's very easy. Actually, you don't get scared with all the ayat like karangan like this. Okay, you just take where is your main point and where you should highlight. So the main point here, they are asking about the littoral zone. So you just recall back what is the main point for the littoral zone, and you look at the case. What case they give here did not get enough sunlight. So you just terbalikkan all the point for the littoral zone. If there is no sunlight, what will happen? Okay, so very simple. Okay, let's go to the second question. All right, so this one about the food chain energy. Okay, so food chain energy. So can we pass, okay, can be passed and transfer from one organism to another. So plant harvest their energy from the sun during the photosynthesis. Okay, this one normal point. Okay, this energy can be passed from one organism to another in food chain. Okay, so this is the main characteristic of our food chain. Okay, the organism can obtain energy from sunlight, called as a producer. And okay, so this is our main point here. Explain how energy transfer from sun until the consumer. Okay, so mark given is 5. Alright, so before we start discuss, let's have a look a few information about the energy loss, efficiency in energy transfer. Okay, because as you know, the main energy source come from the sun. Okay, so from the sun, they go to the primary producer, then primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary. Okay, so all these points, please take note. Okay, so what mean by primary productivity? Okay, so we have an NPP, GPP, but here in this question, they're not asking you to calculate. No, they just explain how energy is transferred. Okay, so if you look at here, so normally the plant will go use the energy before they pass to other level, trophic level. So for example, they are used for the respiration, photo respiration, or some will be lost as a heat energy to the environment and so on. Okay, so now we go back to the question. So now explain how energy is transferred. All right, so you just look at back. Okay, the primary producer only will trap 1 to 5% of light energy. Okay, so which is received for the biomass production. All right, so means from the sunlight penetration, your plant only able to trap 1 to 5% of light energy. Okay, all right. So then your primary consumer. Okay, so now you're defining who is your primary consumer. The herbivores feed on plant. Okay, so you can write as a primary consumer here. All right. Then energy will be transferred from first trophic level to second trophic level. Okay, so you just need to explain because the question asks you energy transfer. They're not asking why the energy is lost. No. Okay. Then baru kita cerita. Alright, so 90% of energy is lost to the environment. Then you give the reason. Okay, so only 10% of energy is transferred to the next trophic level. Okay, so there is a further energy loss through respiration and excretion. Ini macam saya sebut tadi. You have to give the reason. What happened to your energy? Why the energy loss? Okay, you can add here also due to the heat, loss to the environment, due to the heat. So everything can here. So if you look at here, they ask the very basic question here. How energy transfer? Okay, so you must start from our light energy. Okay, then we are discussing about the primary consumer, primary producer. Then who is the primary consumer? Then you no need to mention a secondary, tertiary, no need. You just conclude transfer from first trophic level until second and third. All right. So during the energy transfer, okay, so what is the amount energy will be lost or will be transferred? Okay. All right. And you just highlight little bit. Okay. So why there is an energy loss in our trophic level? Okay. Simple, isn't it? Okay. So let's continue for the there is another point. Sorry. Okay, so the secondary consumer feed on the brand. Okay, this one just for the point. Okay, so let's look at the question number 3. So if you look at the question number 3, human activities since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution around 1750 have produced a 45% increase in the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide. Okay, so this is our key point. Okay, from 280 ppm, okay, to 450 ppm. All right, so you see just an increment lah. Okay, this increase has occurred despite the uptake of more than half of the emissions of the various natural sinks, okay, involve the carbon cycle. All right. So maybe you are like, oh my God, what is the point about? Okay, don't get scared. Never mind. They just twist your mind. Okay, just make you scared. You just highlight what is the question. They ask you 3 ways, okay, other than campaign. Okay, so please don't include the campaign here. We don't want. How to reduce the reservoir pool of carbon that could cause the greenhouse effect. Okay, first, you define what mean by reservoir pool. Okay, so if you discuss about the ecology, we are discussing 2 things. Reservoir pool, cycling pool. Okay, normally the reservoir pool will be the atmosphere, which is keep all your carbon. For this example, is our carbon. Okay, the main source of the carbon can be your atmosphere, can be a hydrosphere, and also the soil, rock, like that. Okay, so if cycling pool, those that can take all the source, use, and they recycle, give to other. Okay, so that's why before you answer, you define first what's the reservoir pool. Okay, and you can understand what I mean by greenhouse effect. Okay, so during school you have a one topic about this one. Okay, showing the increase in CO2 level. Oops. Okay, increase in CO2 level. So this one we call as a greenhouse effect. Okay, so this one is more to like a awareness. Okay, it's like awareness. All right. So what you can do? Okay, catalytic converter on vehicle exhaust. Okay. All right. So maybe you cannot come up with these points. Okay. This is the simple point. Yang always in your TV, radio. Please do the carpool. Use the public transport. Okay. Something like that. Okay, and we reduce the open burning because as you know, when we use the car will exhaust will be release the CO2. Same also with the open burning. Okay, so they will increase the greenhouse gas. Reduce the deforestation. Why deforestation? Because normally the CO2 is taken up by the plant. If there is no plant, no tree, so the carbon dioxide will accumulate in our atmosphere. Implementation of carbon exchange program. Okay, it's like a campaign. It's like that. Okay, and plant more trees. So this one is actually a bonus question for you. Okay, you just think what is the logic and how you can decrease the carbon in our atmosphere, because they call here the reservoir pool. So the reservoir pool here is the atmosphere. All right. Reduce the fossil fuel burning, okay, or use the alternatives like a solar energy, hydro energy, or aero energy. So if you look at here, the mark given is 3, okay, but the point is more than 3. So you select which is the suitable, okay, or anything that you can able to think is like a more to the awareness, okay, all right. Okay, so question number 4, right? So will be the last question for the ecology. Okay, so if you look at here, when they are giving you the exponential growth curve, okay, so this one is the population ecology, okay, that we are discussing about the curve, okay, about the density dependent, independent. So you just come up first with the idea, okay. Alright, so could not be achieved by the organisms such as paramecium species. Explain the phases of the growth exhibited by the paramecium. So, before you answer this question, please recall back how the curve is look like. Okay, it's a logistic growth curve or sigmoid. Okay, then if you look at here, all right, the first part, okay, they will be like a slow growth. Why slow growth? Because during the lag phase, individuals start to grow as they are adapting to the environment. Oh, this one is the theory. I'm talking about the theory first. Okay, then if you look at here, it's a drastic increment. So exponential. Okay, the growth is rapid because all the organism, okay, start to use the resource. Okay, and the resource also plenty, unlimited. Okay, linear phase, mula okay, or also known as a decelerating. Okay, they start to slow down the growth. Okay, so normally this one is related to the environmental resistance. So can you recall back what we mean by environmental resistance here? Okay, such as what? The limited space, the limited food, the accumulation of toxic waste. Okay, something like that. And this one will be the stationary phase. Okay, so the mortality will be equal to natality, natality equal to mortality. It's like that. Okay, so stable because the population become stable. Okay, if these types of question, how you are going to answer? Okay, so because the question asks you to explain in a phases. Okay, so they want you to put in the phase of growth. Okay, so really phase of growth like this. So make sure you write clearly. Okay, the first one you are talking about the lag phase. So you just write lag phase underline. Then you explain what's happening during each phase. Okay, normally in essay you don't need to do the point form. Okay, you just do it like a paragraph. Okay, so this one can be one paragraph also, no problem. So growth is slow due to the organism is adapting itself to the new environment. Okay, so that's the second phase. Okay, so this one is another paragraph. Exponential, or also known as a log growth phase. Okay, so choose one. The organism has adapted with the environment. Okay, so the food and shelter become abundant. Okay, so banyak apparently. So the growth rate increase rapidly as the resources are still unlimited. Okay, all right. So next point, decelerating phase. All right. So this one I don't want. Growth rate become constant. So increase competition for limiting factors such as food and shelter. Okay. So here Betty, you give the example. What is the limiting factor? Okay, or the other name is environmental resistant. Okay, and the last one, stationary or equilibrium. So the population is stable because the birth rate is equal to death rate. Or just now I mentioned to you, natality equal to mortality. Okay, N lahir, M mati. Senang, remember like that. So the population is at the carrying capacity. Okay, so can you understand what I mean by carrying capacity? So that is the maximum point where the environment can support the population. Okay, that's all. So here the underlying point are compulsory. So means when you are explaining the phase, look at here. So each phase is compulsory. Means let's say you didn't mention about the lag phase, but suddenly you start discuss growth and blah blah blah. Actually, you cannot get the mark because the marks is allocated based on the phase is correct and the information is correct. But let's say your face is correct but the information is wrong, so we just give you wrong here, but you still can get mark for the face that you mentioned. Okay, so please pay attention. Okay, and here, let's say you say, Madam, I want to draw the curve. So I can imagine. Yes, no problem. But don't just draw the curve and you leave it like that without explanation because there is no marks for your curve. Okay, so because here they didn't mention anything with the aid of diagram. They didn't mention anything about with the aid of curve or no. So you can draw your curve, no problem. for your understanding. But this one is just for your own understanding, not for the answer. Alright? Okay. Alright. So the end for the first part for the chapter, ecology. Okay. Thank you, everyone.